Morning.
How are you?
Tired.
Give me 6 numbers between 1 and 40.
3,
3,
7,
7,
9,
9,
and 33.
30, 30, 33. That's 4.
And 99.
No, to 40.
Oh, I'm sorry.
2 more.
5 and 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1. Okay. That's for the Illinois lottery. If those 6 numbers hit, we get $5.5 million. Otherwise, how are you today?
I'm terrific.
Yeah. You sleepy?
Well, yeah. I got up early and went to bed at 5. When you're working at night, it's very hard to go to bed early. So.
Do you believe there are such things as night people? I am a night people.
Me too. Well, B personality, that's what they call them.
B? Yeah.
Yeah, A personalities get up early and go to bed early. B's get up late and go to bed late.
Yeah, but B's, if I'm a B, and I think I am, you can keep an A schedule for 20 years and it's never right for you. I still hate getting up in the morning.
Yeah,
and
me
I still
too.
don't want to go to bed at night,
The moment, like I'm on a picture sometimes, have to get up at 6, and for 4 months I'm into that rhythm. But the moment the picture's over, I sleep the next day until 11.
Yeah. There was a test done in a cave on a bunch of people years ago that I read about to see what our natural sleep cycles are. And they put these people in a cave because they couldn't see the light or whatever. And you know how people ended up living? They slept 4 hours and they're up 4 hours.
Really?
And they slept 4 hours and they're up 4 hours. And
sort of like how you should eat.
I guess. But they never stayed up for 8 hours. The natural thing they fell into was a 4 and 4 and 4 and 4.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
I thought it was fascinating. I used to go alone to the country. I had a little place out in the country. It was very secluded. And even before I read that story, I would fall into that. I'd be up, but you'd end up reading from 3 till 7 in the morning, and then you'd sleep till like noon, and you'd get hungry and eat something, then take a nap in the afternoon. It really was kind of a nice, natural rhythm.
You know, what that means to me is that the human mind and body needs to have that relaxation time from being grounded with all of the pressure and maybe you could call it even discordancy in waking conscious hours, so that it can plug into all the other energy, and it needs it every 4 hours in order to be amalgamated in harmony with all the energies that exist, not only on the earth but everywhere, all this universal energy that we don't really recognize is there. That's what that means, I think.
Which basically. I don't understand, except that Edgar Cayce believed that this gift that he had for healing came from he plugged into like a great huge party line in the sky. Can you do it?
I'm learning to.
Yeah,
it really is learning to trust your own inner knowingness, so to speak, because it's, you know what it is, it's like energy flows through you and you feel it if you let it happen, if you get out of your own way.
Some enormously talented people claim that they're just the conduit, the wire, that the energy comes from.
A lot of creative artists actually come down to defining it as that, because sometimes we don't know where the talent comes from or the inspiration comes from.
That fascinating lady who, in England, who some years ago would sit down at the piano, and she'd never even taken piano lessons, and would play like Chopin, and she'd say, well, it's Chopin. And weird. I have recordings somewhere of her playing. It's unbelievable.
Yes, I heard about her.
Yeah.
A woman that I met in Peru could sit down and write complete and fluent Sanskrit, and she was a Peruvian peasant.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't even know what it was she was writing in the symbols of Sanskrit. They brought in, someone came along and identified it as Sanskrit, and then they brought in several Sanskrit experts, and they said, my goodness, this
was
is
she
better.
Writing anything in particular?
Laws and knowledge and information of history and
Why
stuff.
Didn't you ask her for 6 numbers for the Illinois State Lottery?
Because she wrote about the past, not the future.
But you and I disagree greatly on one thing.
What's that?
That is the principle of what do you call it when you come back? Reincarnation. Well, I have read, you have written, that you believe in reincarnation. I've never been able to buy that.
Well, I don't believe in it. I just know that I have lived before.
That you've been other people. I mean, lived
no, I've
in
always
other times.
been my own soul energy, but
Yeah.
I have lived different lives. Oh, that's something I just know.
Did you always know it?
I think I knew it as a child, and just it was so natural to me that I never thought about it, never spoke about it. It really became very evident and apparent to me when I began to travel in my early 20s because, for example, I would be in India, and the first time I landed there, I knew streets, temples,
You did?
oh yeah, specifics too, families that went all the way back. So much has happened to me, Jack, that I can't really refute that. I felt the same way in Russia.
Maybe I've been other things and it was so dull I've forgotten them, you know.
No, I think probably what happens is someone who works on such an intellectual level as you do and fulfilling every conscious moment this time around with information and awareness from the point of view of this level of existence is probably just not remembering because you feel the pressure to fill up everything that we consider information and knowledge from this linear perspective. I've been into this kind of abstract, almost mystical perspective, aware of these other dimensions since I was a kid, so I would automatically be more inclined to remember that.
Did you ever do what the Beatles did? They went away for a while to...
They went to the Maharishi, yeah. I didn't really do it in an organized way like they did. I've never really been in love with the idea of a guru, you know, especially one who has his own airport and airplane. I sort of wanted to be, and still feel, I want to be my own guru. So I'm getting most of my knowledge from my own higher self, as Edgar Cayce would say, the man you quoted. And I think that's more, for me anyway, that's more balanced. I don't want to depend on a teacher who tells me stuff. I want to be my own teacher.
Have you ever met a psychic who really, really knocked you out? I mean, just was so obviously, genuinely, effectively psychic that it was just startling?
I've been very lucky in that most of the psychics that I've talked to have done that in terms of the information coming true.
I mean, predicting the future.
Or my life.
Yeah.
Knowing what had happened to me and they were perfect strangers. See, because they're plugging into this universal energy.
Yeah, but can't they also do a little research if they want to? I mean...
Oh, no, there were no ways these people could.
They knew stuff that nobody could know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had met 2 trans-channelers.
Who?
2 trans-channelers who...
I don't know what that means.
Well, a trans-channeler is a human being who channels other spiritual entities.
Oh.
Like Edgar Cayce.
A medium? Would it be the same as a medium?
Yeah, that's what Edgar Cayce was, a medium. And I've had 2 trans-channelers channel spiritual beings that knew stuff about me I didn't know until a year later, predicted what would happen.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, serious fundamental. I can't because it's too personal.
Yeah.
I might write about it, though, in my next book.
Well, without being specific, what kind of thing that you do? A romantic thing or a business thing?
Yes, both.
Both?
No
kidding.
Stuff that was going on in my life that I had no idea, and nobody would have had any idea.
Well, if you didn't know, how do you know they're right? I mean,
because it happened.
Oh, I see. Later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely to a T.
Yeah.
The description of how it would happen was perfect.
Have you met Peter Hurtkos?
I've met him years ago. I tried to call him about 3 weeks ago in L.A. because several friends of his surfaced in my life when my book came out.
Yeah.
But I haven't met him recently.
I've seen him do remarkable things. He's very good.
You know, they really are plugging into the Akashic Records. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's very interesting, Jack. It's the what I guess you would call the universal memory bank. All acts and actions and thoughts, all energy is recorded. Nothing ever dies. As
Somewhere.
Science
It's up there.
Yeah.
Electrical, whatever, magnetics. Yeah. Okay.
And it resides in the ethers.
Okay.
As science proves. So the mind is capable, if you learn how to use it, of plugging into those ethers. And that's all that psychics do. They just plug into the ethers.
Just find those thoughts that are floating around out there. are stacked up out there.
That's right, those thought energies.
Let me tell you a neat story I bet you've never heard before, and it's true.
Mm.
Let me see if I get my details right. Flint, Michigan. Let me see. Can't give you the exact date. Let's say 1965.
Mm-hmm.
People are sitting in Flint, Michigan, watching television one night, and all of a sudden the television picture goes off the screen like interference, and on comes another picture from another TV station, obviously not outer space, right? And they get like the last minute of a program, and then it says station K in Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there's been a transposed signal from another part of the country, what they call skip. Okay. Well, nobody thought anything of it, except that's a long way from Flint, Michigan to Houston, Texas, and several people, just for the heck of it, wrote to the television station. And somebody thought to contact or write to the FCC about this. Why is it that we could have missed a commercial there? Because evidently the entire city of Flint, Michigan saw this thing from Houston, Texas. Well, the commission did a little simple checking to make sure that in Houston, Texas, the station wasn't boosting their power illegally or whatever. And you know what they found out? That those were indeed call letters from a station in Houston, Texas, which had been sold and changed its call letters some 12 years before. So the only thing is, what happened was, the most logical explanation is that signal was indeed sent from a television station and went somewhere and bounced off of something and came back or whatever, or went around and came back 12 years later. So when you say that every thought and action is out there, certainly every electronic impulse is out there. Every I Love Lucy is floating in the firmament somewhere.
And human thought is electronic energy.
Yeah. Some of us devote a lot less energy to it than others, but yeah. Give me 6 numbers between 1 and 40.
Again?
Well, I got to play 8 games.
You do?
It's only going to cost you $4 is the nice thing.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10,
Who do
12.
we appreciate? Why little ones, too?
Because I don't feel like thinking about that stuff. I want to talk about important stuff.
$5.5 million doesn't bother you at all today.
It doesn't get to me.
2, 4, 6, 8. Give me 2 higher than that, closer to 40.
32 and 49.
You can't have 49. It's 40.
See, all the time I want to stretch my seams. Are we really going to spend time on this?
One more.
8.
You gave me 8.
Jesus.
I'm gonna pick this at 27. Look, I don't know about you.
But you can have the money. I don't want the money.
Shirley, you had no chance of getting any of the money. You're a full partner if you put in $4. This is the Illinois lottery. We don't even have a lottery in Missouri. Didn't you go to
What is this for, Houston?
Houston, Texas. You went to acupuncturist for a psychic reason, didn't you? I mean, you didn't go for a backache ring. Didn't an acupuncturist have something to do with some of your psychic?
Yeah, one. Oh, yes, there's a fabulous woman that works in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yeah, tell me.
And she uses the old Chinese system of acupuncture, psychic acupuncture, and she puts them in the needles in certain points that are well known to increase your psychic power or energy.
I didn't know there were such things.
Oh, yeah. The third eye, right up
in the middle of your forehead.
The galactic points, they call them, on the shoulders, which the energy in the shoulders is in more direct touch with galactic energy. Some in the solar plexus. And they're all over the body, different places. But it was a very exacting science that the Chinese, for centuries and centuries, had perfected. And this woman had learned that science and uses it. And it's amazing when you've got the needles, which don't hurt, by the way. They're very, very thin. And you can hardly feel them going in. When I had acupuncture in China for physical reasons, they hurt more because they touched electrical points in the body that were meant to stimulate the pain, which would then somehow, however one explains acupuncture,
did it work?
Yes, it did.
What was the physical problem? A muscle thing? Or?
Yeah, muscle and lower back pain.
And it did it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
When I went to China, I filmed a cesarean birth. The woman had absolutely no anesthetic. She was awake during the whole operation, eating an apple because she needed to have that glucose sustenance. Yeah. She had 2 acupuncture needles in her ankles, and she had a cesarean, talked to me through the whole operation.
Wow.
That's my first experience with acupuncture.
Well, what about your psychic acupuncture?
Yes, well, then when I had those needles, I tell you what it was like. It was like a movie running in front of my mind of past life experience. And you ask yourself constantly as you're going through it, oh, I must be making this up. I must be making this up. But really what's happening is that you are being stimulated to your ancient truths, so to speak, and you cannot lie under those needles. It's like having sodium pentothal.
Really?
You can't tell a lie to yourself. You try.
You're not saying anything out loud, or are you?
Yeah, you feel the need to express what you're seeing. I tape recorded all of it because
Did you really?
Yeah.
And you saw things that you had done?
I went through several past life experiences.
I'm sorry, when you say past life, you mean previous life?
Yeah, past life incarnations, previous incarnations. And most of the ones that I went through bits and pieces of related to things that were necessary for me to resolve today. Because the whole question of past life incarnational activity or just living over and over has to do with perfecting the soul energy. That's all we're really alive for. That's the purpose of life. And so things that I needed to perfect today that I was having trouble with related to past life experience.
You mean problems have a tendency to hang over from
Sure.
from existence to not existence, but from character to character?
From incarnation to incarnation.
An axe murderer is an axe murderer in 5 lives? I mean, that's
No, well, let's see now how it would depend on the specific, what would one say, sort of karmic task of that axe murderer. Certainly, whoever he murdered had very likely had the experience of murdering someone else, therefore had to go through the experience of being murdered. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So the law of cause and effect is in operation at all times, which it is anyway in science, mathematics, politics, metaphysics, physics. It's at work all the time, the law of cause and effect. So really, it's a question of our becoming more aware.
So it evens out.
Yes.
I kill you in this life, and in the next life, I become the victim.
Yes, exactly. That is what is called cosmic justice. So when you see stuff occurring in this world that you say, this is dastardly, this is inhuman, there is no explanation for this, God is dead, and that sort of thing, it does even out in forthcoming times, which leads you then to the evaluation of time. Time isn't just one life.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as time.
There is no such thing as time.
No. But we look at life in a linear, limited time capsule. You see what I mean? The perspective.
Well, a little bit. A little bit. I mean, I was having trouble with 6 numbers under 40. You can imagine how linear time is going to get to me. How do you equal out something like a Hitler? How many lives does he have to things have to happen to him? How does that,
Well, that is a very, I think, complicated discussion. It would be better to discuss, the Cambodian 6 million because the character of Hitler is so fraught with dynamic hatred on the part of all of us that it's, or even Stalin gets off better than Hitler,
And probably shouldn't.
No, that's the point.
Shirley MacLaine is here. We've got to take a minute out because we've got our Hollywood is here. You've done 3 books now, haven't you? That's kind of an ambitious undertaking. I mean, it takes time and effort, and obviously you're working at other things too. Yeah. Have they been rewarding? Have you been pleased?
Yeah. Especially this last one. I wrote this last one 5 times, and I mean from scratch.
Really?
Different characters, different events.
The one I have here, Out on a Limb. Yeah. It's been out how long now?
5 weeks.
Yeah. Fascinating. How long does it take to write a book? I mean,
it took about 10 years.
Oh, you don't just sit down and do it cover to cover.
No, I wrote 5 versions of this, so that's 5 books. That's a book every 2 years.
You ever worried about hurting somebody's feelings about the things that one has to say in a book, for example, about Well, I guess the question isn't hurting other people's feelings. I often think about writing. I have a great fear of sitting down because there's so much that I would be telling about myself, I guess, even in fiction that I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you read about a character in a work of fiction, you can almost say, well, the author probably has thoughts like this too, kind
Mm-hmm.
of a thing.
Sure, we always write about ourselves, no matter what it is.
Don't you feel terribly naked
Sure.
when somebody picks up your book? That's what I mean.
That was what, well, it really prevented me from publishing my first book 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
As I thought I would be judged as a person, not as a writer.
Yeah.
But then lots of people began to write about their innermost thoughts and feelings, and I thought, well, if they can do it, I've been a public person all my life.
Right.
I've lived in public and laughed in public and made mistakes in public and apologized in public. And
What did you apologize for?
oh, Lord, I don't know. God, I can't remember.
Something if you apologize.
I've been doing things all my life.
Didn't do what Mr. Gere did in the parking lot or whatever.
Maybe it wasn't in a parking lot. But so I figured that maybe the whole world is about communicating more openly and honestly now, and so therefore it's not a question of invading your own privacy, but communicating how you feel.
Lately, I say lately, in recent years, we seem to, as I say we, society, seems to have taken the role of the great all-forgiving society. Maybe it goes back to Mrs. Ford, but all of a sudden, public people started coming forward with terrible, dark secrets. And in the past, these would have been destructive things. But all of a sudden, we have become, as a group, very forgiving. Jerry Ford's wife is an alcoholic and a dope fiend. Yes, but she's given it up now. The Watergate burglars have found religion, and now they're Christians. Isn't that wonderful? We have become very forgiving. You know, I wouldn't say people get away with what they couldn't get away with years ago, but certain things among public people that would have been terribly destructive years ago. Fatty Arbuckle, would have said, "Gee, I'm terribly sorry this girl died," and that would have it would have just zipped right by. We would have said, "Well, poor Fatty Arbuckle."
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why.
I think we're beginning to give up judgment.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because you can't judge a person who is an alcoholic and someone who takes too much Seconal. Yeah. You just wonder why they had the need to do it.
Yeah.
It's become more sophisticated, more compassionate, more... that is the definition of sophistication, is compassion. So we've really suspended our judgments to a large extent, and that's the controversy over the prison system. To keep up with the judgment is to really ensure more hardened criminals instead of trying to understand the reasons for it. And
well, it may be judgment with a public person like a performer, but with a politician, I think maybe we have the right to say, well, if he is a alcoholic or a homosexual or whatever, is that the kind of person that I want in office?
I wouldn't put a homosexual in the same bag with an alcoholic anyway. You can function as a homosexual. It's just a sexual preference. Many alcoholics can't function. Many can, too.
Well, I probably unfairly put them together.
Mm-hmm.
I probably just put them together because that would be two things that would be detrimental to a person's political career.
I'm not sure about that.
Homosexual?
Uh-huh. I think alcohol would be a problem because it renders you ineffective. You can't, but homosexuality, I think we're becoming much more liberal about it. It might be too soon to say, yeah, we could really elect someone to high office because of it yet. But I don't think it'll make any difference as long as that person whose sexual preference happens to be that of the same sex is good at his work. I don't think it's going to make any difference. To Americans, I would say that's a problem anywhere else in the world. But
yeah.
I am astonished continually at how open-minded Americans are.
Well, getting back to homosexuals for just a second, it does make a person vulnerable to blackmail if they are denying being a homosexual.
Well, yeah, but if
a vowed homosexual, I guess, does not have I don't think you'd get a homosexual elected in the state of Missouri, for example.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be willing to make a determination on that. Only the people could tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're right about that.
I don't.
It would depend on his feelings about being, or her
hers,
feelings about being a homosexual. If they really say, yes, that's what I am. Now let's get on to the physical policy. Let's get on to unemployment. Let's get on to high interest rates.
Won't it be interesting to see what happened to the congressman who was involved in the liaison with the page. What was his name?
Yes, he was a bit more centered about it than the man who was involved with the young girl.
Right. That was Crane out of Illinois, but I can't remember the name of the other one. It was.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, you can't remember, so.
But he's not in my district, so I don't vote for him either. That's germane too.
It's germane, but I mean, when you think of the things down through the walk of human history that we all used to apologize for, and now we think we have the right to be, I think we're progressing more.
I confess still to conservatives. I still worry about ring around the collar. I'll be honest. That is, ring around the collar is a very definite problem in my house. Just give me an idea. Give me 6 numbers. Before Shirley MacLaine is here, I want...
Speaking of ring around the rosies.
Yeah. I want you to go to Slyman Brothers the next time you need any kind of an appliance, like an air conditioner or a refrigerator or anything. Is at the Fox through the remainder of this week, and off the air a minute ago said something very nice about St. Louis audiences that I think bears repeating.
I said that they seem to be on a curve of a real high point in the collective spirit of the city, where they honestly really know how to participate in what a performer brings to town. I was noticing that the other night. I went out to the Muni because I work at night and can't see my buddies in their shows, but the night before I opened, I went to see Camelot, and the sense of audience appreciation and involvement with the theater in the town. I had been hearing that, Jack, from several people who played.
Good audiences.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Steve and Edie told me, Tom Jones told me, Ann Margaret told me what it's like at the Fox. I do think the Fox has a great deal to do with it.
It's a super house.
Oh, it's just a giant jewel box.
Had you seen any of the other Foxes? Did you see the San Francisco Fox before it came down?
No.
The one in Detroit has been redone.
I hear, is wonderful, yeah. I love that this gorgeous place is in the part of town that it's in.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. We almost lost it. As you know, it was in bad repair, and there was a question as to whether the Fox had any future. There's
something else about that theater. 4,700 seats.
You're going to tell me it's haunted.
Oh, I think all the energy of everybody who's played there, including the screen stars, is still there.
Have you ever been in a haunt? Did you ever see a haunt? A ghost?
I haven't, no. Because I'm not afraid. I think people who are afraid probably see them.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a judgment there, but I think that's probably what's going on. I don't know. That's a long discussion because there's so much evidence that stuff like that really happens.
I lived in a haunted house. I really did. I had a house that was haunted with kind of a friendly spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it was a lady, a female spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day...
Who didn't want to leave. Was that it, or couldn't get away? Is that what
I don't know. I think she left eventually. It was very dull. After a while, I think she went to, moved somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But at first, when I first moved in, just the weirdest things happened in this house.
Yeah. But if you felt comforted, maybe you knew her before. See, that spirit that you were feeling is an example of what the soul does in between incarnations. See, some people have no problem with knowing that there are spiritual beings, but they can't put it together with the fact that you yourself will be a spiritual being after you leave the body, or die, as we say. But nothing ever dies.
No.
And that's a scientific truth. Nothing dies. It just changes form.
Right.
So what happens to this soul energy that you know you are?
Mm-hmm.
It just changes form, leaves the body. So it goes to some place, resides on the astral planes, as we say in metaphysical language, because we can't find better words than that.
Yeah.
The Indians have really commensurate words with the knowledge.
American Indians or Indian?
No, Indian Indians, because this is second nature to them, or to the Chinese and the Japanese Orientals. Have no problem with abstract, metaphysical, spiritual understanding. Where we gave technology to the East, they're giving us now this spiritual understanding to the West.
Do most people that you encounter understand this and go along with you?
Believe it or not, I've had very little resistance.
Really?
Yeah, they just want to know more. It's not, oh, that's crap, or, you haven't got all your paddles in the water. I haven't had any of that. Just tell me more, they'll say, or please help me with this connection, or, geez, I remember this experience I had 25 years ago. Now it makes sense. Tell me where it fits today. That's what's happening to me.
But and we've run out of time, even if it was completely untrue, wrong, The fact that you have embraced it and you believe it has helped you to get things together here and now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I realize that I'm part of a universal energy, and there are friends out there.
Yeah.
All my relatives that I loved that are now gone, friends that I love, they are not gone. They're there. As long as you can open your consciousness to plug into it, you realize
One
it.
of them wouldn't have 6 numbers under it.
Oh, yeah.
Shirley MacLaine at the Fox through the remainder of the week. We're out of time. I'll see you in 2 weeks.